Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm James Milan, and I am talking this week, as always, with our town manager, Adam Chapdelaine. Adam, as always, appreciate you being here. I want to get right into it. We have been talking over many, many weeks now on a week-by-week basis often about the creeping up of numbers here in Arlington for COVID cases. I would like to ask you, especially because we're seeing much greater growth, I myself noted that, it's really been only about 6 weeks since we crossed the 400 case threshold. And already we have zoomed past 600 now. So that's a 50% growth in just 6 weeks or so. Obviously, we are in a different place. We know that because of the things that are happening, horrific and very grim news from other parts of the country. Obviously, parts of your message are going to be the same as they've always been, but this does feel different now.
Yeah, I think I don't know who the expert is that gets to say this, but it seems apparent we are in the second surge, if not well into the second surge. We were talking yesterday on our leadership call. I believe the number yesterday was 622. If you extrapolate our daily case counts over the past few days out over the next month and more, we might, by the end of January, have another 600 cases, right? So what we've experienced over, I guess, arguably now, a 9-month period, we might re-experience in a 2-month period. So it's been serious, and it is now as serious as it's ever been. Mm-hmm. The mask wearing is so crucial. Avoiding gatherings is so crucial. Really adhering to all of the public health, both advisories and requirements, are just so important. I've been talking with both our team here as well as with a regional group about the potential need for further rollbacks. I don't want to say shutdowns, but rollbacks to earlier stages of the reopening. We've been advocating with the governor's office. I know his public comments have not suggested that he is of the mind to do that. Mm-hmm. But I'll put it out there that it's concerning for the state to break its record for daily cases yesterday at basically the same day that the governor's touting brighter days ahead. While there certainly are brighter days ahead with the vaccines that we know are coming, there's a tough road before those brighter days. So I think my message today is I think we've been lucky that Arlingtonians have been very compliant with restrictions, and we just need to stay that course. And I would also say to Arlingtonians that we are, to help them know that we are working, considering whether or not we need to roll things back. And if whether or not we would do that alone as part of a cohort are some of the things we're discussing. But we're in serious times. I know for quite a while I've been saying things are getting incrementally worse. I don't think we're dealing in increments anymore. I think it's here, and we need to be very serious about it.
Let me ask you about on that subject, whether there's any change in thinking or messaging coming out of town hall around the fact that, of course, this is all balanced against the need for us to continue to support our local businesses, to get people to, frequent and patronize those businesses as best as we can. I have mentioned at previous times that businesses have worked very hard to make sure it's safe to go in. How are you feeling about people, about that aspect of patronizing business?
So, I think each individual needs to make their own decision about how safe they feel going into an indoor business. I agree with you that many of our businesses have really gone above and beyond to make their shops safe. So I think if you're wearing a mask, you're not lingering, you're not putting, I think we can all tell when we're in proximity to someone else for too long a period of time. So I think we all need to be mindful of that. I think the area that I know I've thought a lot about and will continue to talk about is indoor dining. I think it's one thing to go into a retail shop, buy some things and leave with a mask on, with the workers there having a mask on. It's another thing to go sit at a restaurant, take your mask off, have a conversation, not in close proximity to others, but not in far distance from others. I won't name the person, but I even had a restaurant owner approach me and say, I think it's crazy that in the state right now, we have indoor dining, and I would support it if you decided to roll it back. So we are trying to balance it. We want our businesses to survive. it's crucial to the future vibrance of Arlington that our businesses survive. But I do think it has to be balanced with getting through these next few months.
So many tough questions, and as you said, we are here. We are dealing with this in front of us right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see what the story is next week. Let me just mention that, by the way, next week we will be talking to Christine Bongiorno, the head of our local board of health here in Arlington, for our COVID-19 update. Moving on, Adam, town meeting, a special town meeting that took place in November and all virtually, has just come to a close as of last night. And any takeaways from that for you?
So my number one takeaway is a huge thank you to everybody. I would start with the moderator, who really just did a magnificent job adapting to this totally new forum, and being the linchpin that held it all together. A thanks to the volunteer and staff team that were there each night, both before the start and after the close, to make sure that all the technical pieces were working together, helping those town meeting members that needed help. And a huge thanks to the town meeting members for both turning out in record numbers, right? Our attendance was beyond anything I've ever seen in my time here. And their patience working through the process was really admirable. So overall, I think coming out of it, I'm very grateful that we were able to put it all together as a team and a community. And I think we learned a lot about how this might look in the spring. There's no crystal ball. If I was gonna wager, I would say we're gonna do it again in this manner in the spring. We don't know enough yet about how the vaccines are going to be rolled out or when they're going to become available. So I think this was a good, not test run, but practice for how things could go in the spring. Not perfect. I think we learned some things. The team actually even made changes and improvements night to night to try to respond to concerns that were being raised. So overall, I think Arlington should collectively be proud of its town meeting members, the team of staff and volunteers, the moderator, everybody involved for putting this together and keeping democracy in action.
Yeah, and if I can just throw in a quick shout out to my own colleagues, Sean Keen and Jeff Monroe, who worked, again, as hard as the other staff members you were talking about, just to make sure that all of this could happen and be disseminated to the wider audience here in Arlington, and people are interested, of course.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because they were sort of on my screen. They were the silent partners, but yeah, they were critical to making this happen too.
And speaking for ACMi, we are really proud and happy to be part of these kinds of, fairly momentous and ultimately successful, I think, on a number of levels, undertakings. Some pretty good and interesting news coming out of the school department this week. I know that, this is not, directly under your scope, but yeah, a couple of interesting items. Tell us about them.
Well, so I think the first one I would address is most have probably seen that the school committee did vote to hire a new school superintendent, subject to successful contract negotiations. So that's a tremendous change for the community. Kathy Bodie has done great work for a long time in Arlington, and will be here for a little while longer, right? She's here to the end of the school year, and there'll be time, and she'll be well deserving of the praise that we'll give her before she officially retires. But we'll also be welcoming a new superintendent, which is an incredibly critical role in the community. I was lucky I had the opportunity to talk to both of the finalists for a brief period over Zoom the week before Thanksgiving. And I came out of those conversations feeling like it was a win-win for the community, that whichever candidate was selected had the skills, demeanor, and experience to be successful in Arlington, or at least have a shot at being successful in Arlington. So I look forward to building a relationship with Dr. Homan and continuing to make the progress we've been making on both the town and school side.
Great. And I know the other piece of news really has to do with something that everybody is hyper aware of and has been for years and will be for years, and that is, of course, the high school rebuild. Which we, last week we mentioned that the beam raising had occurred earlier last week, and that's a very important symbolic step. But today or yesterday, perhaps, I believe GMP was signed. And explain what that is.
So the GMP was actually voted on by the committee just about an hour ago. I was at virtually a high school building committee meeting this morning, and they agreed to the GMP. GMP stands for guaranteed maximum price. It's a little linguistic, but it's the way that when you do construction manager at risk procurement, where you hire a construction manager, they work with the architects, and then we build out pricing with them. They eventually come to an agreement with the town on what they call the guaranteed maximum price. And that is the budget price that we hold them to. There are contingencies built in because there's always things in a project that come up that require a little more funding than what was initially budgeted. But within those contingencies, the firm now needs to build the school for that GMP price. And really, the amazing part is, just about a year ago, we were $26 million over budget. And the committee and the project team did tremendous work to go through a value engineering process to bring the budget back in line, bring the project back in line with budget. And now after looking at all the bids that came in, we were collectively, to start the discussion, $9 million under budget. So we were able to add back in project alternates like the lights at the stadium, lights at the additional athletic fields, as well as the Minuteman Bikeway Connector, two aspects that I know people in the community were really interested in seeing go forward. We were able to enhance our contingencies and put aside allowances in appropriate places to make sure that we would get this project completed on time and on budget. So we're in a really good position. I feel great about it. I think the committee is very pleased that we are where we are. And still a lot of work left to do. I walked by just before our chat here just to sort of see where we were. If you haven't driven by, or anybody's watching hasn't driven by, drive down Mass Ave. I mean, there's a lot of steel up. The site's being transformed. It's moving fast, and I think it's going to be wonderful. I think it's going to be a wonderful new asset to the whole community.
Yeah, I would just echo what you just said. The visible signs of what is of the future building are starting to come together, and you can just get a sense of how the space is going to be used, et cetera. So this is no longer in the abstract for folks. It's really it's happening again right in front of us. And in this case, very good news too to share. So glad you were able to. That some things are actually getting added back in. You hardly ever hear about that kind of thing with a construction project, especially of this size, I think.
Yeah, absolutely true.
Great. Anything else that we haven't covered that should be this week?
No, I think that was a good summation of the top issues. I think there's a lot more information to come around COVID in the next upcoming weeks, but I would just reiterate, please stay safe, comply with the requirements and advisories, and hopefully we can all keep ourselves healthy and safe throughout this holiday season.
Yes, let us hope so. Thanks again for your time this week, Adam. And with a reminder that we will be with Christine Bongiorno, our Health and Human Services Director here in town next week for the COVID update. I'm James Milan, and we'll see you then.